Good morning, everyone. My name is Daniela Esposito. I'm the EMEA SME Partner Manager, and I would like to welcome you all to this interactive training session on lead generation. Before I start really presenting, I wanted to give really some context on this training, on this specific training on lead generation. So when we sent out the survey a couple of months ago to you, and we asked you on what are your training needs and where do you see you wanted to have specific material on and wanted to help assistance, where you needed assistance in, we found very quickly that one of the area that Google needs to address was around lead generation. And more precisely, the request that we had from a large majority of our partners was around sharing best practices with our partners around how to generate leads, how to qualify them. And basically, this is really the objective of this webinar. We want to share with you the best practices, tell a bit the story of Google as well. I myself, I worked in the business development department the last year, and I helped set it up. And I think I've experienced quite a bit of, I've got quite some exposure to this topic. And I want to share with you this story as well a bit and tell it from Google's perspective, and with the objective that you can adopt those practices that Google and other companies in the industry have adopted, and adopt them, and then with the objective that you become self-reliant, because Google is really trying to push and help their partners, enable their partners to give them all the materials, all that kind of training they need, so that they can really bring their own business forward. And my objective and my wish and hopes for you are that you can really take over some of those practices, make them yours, implement them in your company, and grow your own business, and without being dependent on what Google is doing. So that was the rationale of this training. So I'm here this morning with Jonathan Sorum.
Hi guys. For those of you who attended my or our previous webinars and trainings, you should recognize my voice by now. I'm just going to be sitting here and adding some comments where it's applicable, but this is basically Daniela's session. But I'll give my feedback on whenever he wants it. But
Definitely. We need it, Jonathan, because you have been working with some telecommunications providers and you help them set up the lead generation offices as well. And I think that's definitely valuable if you share your experience as well with our partners here.
Yeah, will do.
Great. So I think that in terms of agenda today, I'm gonna start very quickly giving an overview on what lead generation or demand management. Those are the interchangeable definitions or terms that we use. Is really why we need it and what are the roles and responsibilities in a company for a demand management function, and then go into specifics around how can I build a successful customer acquisition engine? Like, what are the outbound lead generations that I need to put in place? What are the KPIs, like the key performance indicators that I need to measure and track so I can make sure that my organization is doing well? And as well, looking more from an inbound lead generation perspective, what are the things I can do there? Even though the focus will be really around outbound lead generation, because that's where I think most of the partners really need help with, and where we can help with. And throughout this webinar, I want to share some theory, of course, and share the story of Google and other companies, but I wanted to make it as well very practical for you, which is why we have a lead generation toolbox. So by the end of this webinar, and I will share that as well very quickly during the webinar, you will all have a toolbox at hand where you can go in and have localized templates of email templates or invitations, etc., which you can use to bring on and bring forward your own lead generation efforts. And then, of course, we'll finish with a quick benchmark, goals that you can set for your organization. And then, last but not least, the questions and answers. I want to keep this part really short, because like no, the two first parts short, and then really dive into your questions and answers, because I feel that most of the stuff is really within the lead generation toolbox. It's the more practical part, and I want you to deep dive into those things, and then really take your questions from there, because I think that's where we can be of most value to you. And as usual, to situate this training, you have been trained now by Jonathan, by Fabian as well, on the ESP process framework that we're using within Google internally, and we hope you are adopting as well. And we're seeing really good and encouraging feedback from you so far, that this methodology and this sales process that we are using internally is really helping you, and you want to adopt it. So you know all the phases, the stages: qualification to proposal close phase. And what I did is actually, this training is actually situated before the qualification phase, because you need first to generate new leads. So you need to go after new clients, you need to chase them before you can actually qualify them. So this is really why we're talking in this training about lead generation, and what you've seen before, qualification, discovery, proposal, and close, is really situated after the process. But this was really to give you some scope or context of this training. So what is demand management really? It is really about creating and managing and planning the demand. So demand is really being the leads. The leads is really persons that have an interest for the products that you're selling, and planning and managing those clients with restricted resources. So most of the partners probably have 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe even more employees, and you need to kind of go after new clients, and you need to make sure that all of your sales reps have enough ammunition to kind of seed their markets. So they need to have enough leads that they can work on, so that they can close the deal and hit the quota. And the demand management is really an art, because you need to kind of, it's an iterative process. You need to understand really, okay, this is the kind of leads that we will go after, this is the kind of customer segment that we want to target, and this is the lead source that we want to have. So we will have, and I will explain it very quickly, but you need to kind of fine tune it. Like, you will learn a lot in the very first weeks and month that you will be like setting up your own lead generation practices. And as you can see on the right, you will see here what most of you probably know is the AIDA model. So you will see the kind of buying stages that a buyer, a purchaser goes through, and where you, as actually a marketer, need to influence him. So you will have the awareness stage, the interest stage, desire. So you need to, as a marketer, generate awareness of your product or the services that you're selling, so that you can actually inspire his interest, and then further get him like the desire to make actually a purchasing decision of your services. And the whole purpose of demand management and lead generation is really to bring the customer from the initial awareness phase through to the decision-making phase, and as quickly as possible. As usual, please let me know your questions while we're talking. It's very important to me that you point them out in due time, and we will answer them in direct or even afterwards in the question and answer session. So why do we need actually demand generation? To give you an example, and to tell a bit here, to give you a bit Google context, we in Google, in the past years, we had really a lot of inbound web leads, and we still have them, but we wanted to grow faster than the market, faster than our organic growth. And that's why we decided actually that we wanted to put in place a business development department, so that we can grow faster than the incoming customer queries who were already at the desire stage, who were already aware of our products, who had an interest and had a strong desire for this product and wanted actually to buy it. And we wanted to go after all the other customer segments which were untouched practically. This is why actually we wanted to put in place this lead generation engine, and we wanted the purpose was to generate new high quality leads and increase the velocity of opportunities in the funnel. And the funnel was really bringing them from the awareness stage through to the decision stage. And that was really the main objective, and that's why we wanted it. And basically what we did here internally in Google, and what many other companies as well in the industry do, is that we created a specific role, which is really focused on generating new leads and creating new opportunities. And this is what we call a demand management representative, and which will be in the future, which we can use with the acronym DMR. And basically, there are three buckets of areas of responsibilities a DMR or this kind of person has. So first area of responsibility is around creating opportunities. So the person would do all the outbound calling new customers which are not coming towards you, but you are reaching out to them, emailing them, then doing the qualification with the criteria that Jonathan pointed out, so the band criteria, and making the kind of proper qualification so that they don't waste time. We will go into detail after that as well. Keeping the leads warm, working one-on-one with sales reps, making sure that the DMR is a complement to a sales rep, that they work together, and the DMR is really supplying the sales reps with fresh ammunition so that the sales reps can go close and hit the target. The second area of responsibility is around lead management, or the nurturing of leads. Basically, what that means is really that most of the times when you do call a new prospect who is not probably aware of this of what your services you are offering, then what you need to do is you need to stimulate his interest, of course, generate awareness and stimulate his interest, but he may not be immediately up for a change. So you need to kind of nurture him and show him attention and keep him warm during the life cycle of this opportunity, so that you can actually then convert him. Jonathan, you wanted to point out something?
Yeah, and this ties into, as Daniela said, the BANT criteria. And this is the T here, the timeline. If during the qualification you realize there is some sort of interest, but their timeline doesn't fit what our criteria that we've set up is, like for example, if we set up that they need to be able to make a decision within 6 months, and they've just made a recent purchase, there's still an interest, but your system, your demand management system, whatever it may be, needs to be able to flag this customer so you're keeping him warm, so you don't lose track of him.
Absolutely, thank you, Jono. And I think that what is important to mention and point out as well is we will have different nurturing systems. So one that is being done by the demand management representative. So basically, his responsibility would be to kind of keep the leads warm, which have a time frame, let's say, of up to 6 months. And you can define it individually for yourselves. But we decided that the DMR would actually kind of keep warm all the opportunities who have said maybe I will change within the 6 to 12 months, and then anything that where they say they go beyond 12 months, that's actually some sort of a newsletter. They would get a touch via a newsletter, or they would get an automated email by our customer relationship management tool. So we automate as much as possible, and we hope that with the intention that we want to keep DMR focused really on creating warm opportunities, hot opportunities, which can be converted within the next month. So this was the second bucket of responsibility, and the third one is really around customer relationship management, data quality. So keeping in your customer relationship management tool clean, and very importantly, the objective, or like one area of responsibility, is around giving feedback, providing feedback to whoever is buying the leads. And we will see how those really roles will tie in the next slides. But basically, the DMR will be working on all kinds of leads that your company has bought, and you need to provide feedback to the provider of your company, of the provider of the leads, in order to make sure that in the future you will get better quality leads than you had in the past. And in order to do that, your DMR needs to be skilled and needs to be trained to measure somehow in a way the quality of the leads. And that's where you need to provide feedback.
And just a bit of a comment here on data quality. I've seen some examples, and this applies both if you have the demand management in-house, that you have your own team doing it, and but it's especially if you have a third party that you've assigned, an external company doing your lead generation. Now, the aspect I want to touch upon here is compatibility with your CRM system, because I've seen examples where the lead generation team has one system that puts out an output in either in a spreadsheet or something like that, or a data file, and the CRM system can't actually handle it. So you'll be in those cases you'll be working with two systems, one for leads and one for as the lead matures into an opportunity, and that's always a bad thing. So whatever is set up, make sure that that you can have the data in your CRM from start to finish, and take the extra effort in actually making sure that this is set up properly, because there are so many negative consequences if you can't work from one single system.
And I think, yeah, it's definitely good advice, Jonathan. And what I want to point out is that, like, what we're trying to depict here is like the ideal solution, and it's a journey for you towards this 100% lead generation engine. So you can take gradual steps. We acknowledge that it has taken us as well quite a while to get there, and probably we're not there 100% yet. But we wanted to share with you already what we're doing and what we see other competitors do in the industry, share with you the knowledge, and kind of hopefully give you some insights into what you can do with the resources you have. So the customer acquisition process there, like what we said, we introduced a new role. We had our marketing department, so you would have someone in your company who is responsible of the marketing, whose main responsibility it is to generate awareness of what your company is doing and generating leads. And then we introduced a new role, which is really around the demand management representative, and whose role is really to prospect new clients and qualify new leads, and keep up the data quality in the system, and nurture leads which have a time frame of less than 6 months as far as their decision time frame is concerned. And then we would have the sales rep, and this is like kind of, so you see the stages. We would have a marketing stage, which is all about generating awareness. Then we would have a demand management rep, which takes care of all the qualification according to the criteria that you have learned in the ESP process training made by Jonathan. And then you would have a sales stage where you would actually move all the qualified opportunities by a demand management rep and move them towards and transition them towards the sales representative. And the sales representative, his role is actually to make sure that the opportunities qualified by a DMR kind of advance in their sales cycle and close. So that is really what this is about. So that's how we were functionally split, and everyone is really focused on what they do, but they still need to work together. So for example, the DMR and the marketing department, they need to work together, because the DMR needs to provide feedback as to the leads that the marketing people have bought. And the marketing, at the other hand, the marketers in your company, they need to make sure they have DMRs on board as to when the lead generation strategy is being defined. So they need to know from the DMRs what customer segments are we going after, what kind of region is working the best, etc., etc. And sales reps and demand management reps need to be working together very tightly as well, because we need to make sure that the opportunities which are qualified, as you can see here, are really qualified according to the criteria that the sales reps agrees on, and so that no one really wastes time. So this is like the functional split of roles and responsibilities across the customer acquisition engine. And now I want to focus really on how you can build this customer acquisition engine, and what are the different functional blocks that you need to focus on in order to build it up. And what we have seen in Google, what we see at other competitors do, there are like 5 different blocks, which is like some sort of a process. So you will have the initial marketing work. So your marketer goes after and defines a lead generation strategy. Then you would have the initial lead processing. So that's where the DMR comes in and qualifies the leads and makes sure that he gets opportunities out. If those opportunities don't match with the criteria of the time frame, they will be nurtured. And then there's the opportunity management made by a sales rep. So they need to advance and close those opportunities. And a transversal area the transversal functional area is around systems, so CRMs. and reporting, making sure that you can track and measure each of those activities in your customer acquisition engines. So now, like, this is the framework I've set up, and I know there's a lot of things to say, but I want to go through to most of it, but you will have all those slides as well at your disposal afterwards. So this is the very first phase, which is about generating new leads and creating awareness made by a marketer. So what, like you see here, the stage, what you need to do in this stage, and the suggestion on how you can measure it, and then the main takeaways. So in the initial marketing work, what there's to do is that you need first define an outbound lead generation strategy. Outbound, when I say outbound, I mean going after new customers which didn't come towards you, but you're going after them. So then, like, what you need to do there as a marketer, you need to define a goal of the number of leads that you want to generate, depending on the number of pipeline, the dollar amount of pipeline that you want to generate, and the goal in terms of closed deals, of course. You need to define a goal in terms of opportunities that you want to create and close. So to give you an example, let's say your sales department and marketing and sales have to work very closely together. Has a target of closing $10,000, let's say, this month. And in this case, you need to make sure that, okay, based on your conversion rate and the contacted rate, you can say, okay, I need to close $10,000, that's 4 deals. So in order to close 4 deals, I need to have at least, with a conversion rate of, let's say, 20%, I need to have 20 qualified opportunities. And so in order to have 20 qualified opportunities based on a, let's say, 5% lead to opportunity conversion rate, you would have 400 leads that you need to buy. So that's the kind of logical thinking that you need to apply and adopt, so that you can really kind of define goals for your sales and marketing, and that you can make sure that the marketer is actually working with the sales in order to drive the overall goals. A very important point is around defining and agreeing on process with sales on the follow-up SLAs. So SLA is a service level agreements. So let's assume that you're generating new leads and you decided you want to create, like, let's say you stick with the 400 leads that you wanted to buy. So with 400 leads that you want to buy, and you say you want to get 20 qualified opportunities out of it, so you need to make sure that those 20 qualified opportunities are actually followed up on by the sales representative in a very short time. So you need to agree with a sales representative on the service level agreement, and I will go on to that in the next slide and share with you some ideas of service level agreements that we have adopted internally. But this is very important, that there is like kind of like a mutual agreement, because assume that you are that your DMR or your resource allocated to outbound calling is calling all those prospects and has those qualified opportunities who really want to benefit from your services and the products you are selling, and then the DMR parses this qualified opportunity to the sales rep, and the sales reps, it takes them ages to get back to this hot opportunity. That's a really bad customer experience, and probably you will lose and churn new customers. So you need to make sure that you agree with your sales representative on a mutual service level agreement, and that you track it, and that there's always a feedback loop between you, between the resource allocated and the sales rep, because otherwise this whole process doesn't work. Then, of course, one other area of responsibility is around defining an inbound lead generation strategy. So that means you need to kind of generate awareness for your company and the services your company is promoting, so that the customers come after you. So there's like different channels. There's your website, of course. There's online advertising through AdWords, and you can measure that through the number of impressions or the number of website leads coming in. So people actually calling you or contacting you via your website. And last but not least, as a marketer, you need to make available all those leads to your sales representatives, so that they can actually call those leads and close them. And you need to make sure that those leads are being uploaded into a centralized customer relationship management tool, such as Joan pointed out. And you need to like what you need to measure here is that you need to measure the number of leads uploaded by week and compare it to your weekly target. So if you have 400 leads that you wanted to generate in a quarter, you need to kind of make sure that every week you have 100 new leads uploaded and made available to your sales rep. Otherwise, they're running out of ammunition, right? So this is kind of the strategic and tactical thinking that you need to adopt. And last but not least, one very important thing I wanted to point out is as well the type of the time, the cycle time it takes between uploading a lead, between generating a lead and uploading it. So let's assume you buy each week 100 new contacts, and you need to make sure that those 100 new contacts get immediately available to the sales representatives, because with every day that you wait, you're losing money and time. So you need to have as well here a service level agreement in place, so that actually you make sure that the leads are immediately made available to your sales representative. We have a question here from Philippe. Hi Philippe, what types of lead properties or statuses do you keep track of? So not 100% sure what you mean by lead property or statuses. If you could very quickly elaborate on that, I would be happy to take that and take that question. And in the meantime, I will go forward with the takeaways. So I think one of the takeaways really from that initial work, marketing work, is around how you can, like, you need to be able to define and drive the decision in what segment or market you want to generate demand. So, and that's not something you need to do isolated as a marketer. You need to always get feedback from the sales representative and the demand management rep, because they are the closest to the end customer. They know what kind of services they want to, in what region, in what specific industry. So kind of get this information from them, and based on that, define your outbound lead generation strategy and drive it forward. Another key takeaway is really getting enough leads for your sales reps as ammunition, because what you don't want to happen is that your sales reps have very aggressive sales quotas to hit, and what you did is, like, you projected you will have 400 leads and you will contribute with 20 qualified opportunities, and which 4 out of them will close, so with $10,000 resulting in $10,000 revenue. And what you don't want to happen is that actually you will be only to deliver on 200 new leads and therefore just have 10 qualified opportunities and 2 closed deals, meaning therefore only $5,000 of revenue closed. So make sure that you have enough leads for your sales reps so that they can go after those new leads. So Philippe, in the meantime, has precised a bit the question. So what type of lead status do you keep track of? So lead source, lead stage, downloaded which materials? So that's an interesting question, Philippe. We will have on the next slides some information on the lead source. Actually, you're already anticipating the next slide, and we will be answering to that hopefully as well. Let me know if that doesn't answer. I don't want to talk about it right now. We will get there in 1-2 minutes. Just bear with me, please, for a second. Another key takeaway is really defining a rating system for leads and acceptable thresholds for your team. What that means is really that when you buy your 400 leads, you need to define a goal for you as a marketer to make sure that you can say, okay, I have A, B, C leads. So A leads is for me the best quality of leads based on the information I can get from the provider of that database. B leads have less information, let's say, on the industry. They don't fit with a specific criteria. And C leads are really leads where I don't have any specific information on the title, on the job title of the lead I'm calling into, nor the industry he's into, etc., etc. So I think you see where I'm getting. So you need to kind of define that rating system for leads, and you need to define as well thresholds for your team and for the provider. So let's say you have that 100 leads coming in that you want to buy on a weekly basis. So you say 80% of my leads need to meet the A criteria, meaning they need to have information on the lead contact, the job title of the lead, and the industry he's working in, because that information already gives you good and valuable input for your DMR. So before he calls the lead, he can actually gather case studies and have a good success story at hand sorry, you can have a good success story at hand and call. Apologies, I'm a bit sick. Um, so another key takeaway is that you need to get the leads really and make them available very quickly to your sales rep, because velocity is really key. So the sales reps really need to adapt the follow-up call according to the lead source. So sorry. So what that means is really that the sales rep, sometimes what happens is he's so used from getting inbound web leads, so customer opportunities coming from leads that have contacted the company directly. So that is a quite easy sell to do. However, when you will change and make the transition, thanks a lot, Jono, towards an outbound lead generation strategy, then you will see some changes as well from your sales reps, because they need to adapt the behavior. They need to change the way they pitch to those leads, because they are not leads who came towards you. They are leads which your DMRs have qualified and say, yeah, there's a potential we can go after. Please give them a call. And then the kind of approach you have to adopt here is totally different. You cannot expect that this lead will be closing immediately. You cannot make the kind of assumption that they will purchase immediately. So you need to have a different approach, and I think that's really key.
And I completely agree here. You can grade. There are different ways to grade them. The level of interest, or if you just put it simply, how warm or cold the lead is. And reactive leads. When we look at reactive leads, what we're doing, if we look at the AIDA model, they're already aware, and they have some sort of interest because they have reached out to you. So you know that this is quite warm. When you're doing proactive demand management, you need to do this. You need to almost force this upon them in some way, so that they start to get to know what the main issues are. But until the time comes when you see that there's an actual desire and interest on their behalf, you need to be a bit cautious, and you can't be as aggressive with these leads.
Absolutely. And that's something that you need to already be prepared for mentally, and have like a communication strategy ready and some material and training ready for your sales representative when you decide to go down this path. The last takeaway really is, and I think you have captured this notion of making sure that the three different roles that we have seen before between marketer, demand management representative, and the sales reps are really intertwined and always connected, and that they talk to each other, that they provide feedback and input into what the marketer is doing. Because last but not least, the marketing is a supporting function. He needs to drive those new leads to the demand management rep. Demand management rep qualifies them and transitions them to the sales rep. So now we will go to lead sources, and that's something that Philippe has hinted to. So all the leads that you are generating as a marketer and buying are not coming all from the same source. They were sourced from different they have different origins. And so for example, a lead source could be your website. So and I tried to link it to the AIDA model again. So the website, for example, a lead, a contact who a prospect who has contacted us through the website form and who says he wants to get in touch with your company and is interested in Google Apps or Postini for that matter, he is really showing some desire and really a level of action, because he's coming already towards you. Whereas someone who's maybe attended one of your webinars or who has already only signed up for it, he has already some genuine level of interest and a desire to learn more about this product. And the same for cold calls. Cold calls is really completely like at the same names. It's really hinting at it's really cold, and you need to kind of generate awareness here. So it's totally different kind of lead source. Again, for emails that you're sending out or direct mails you're doing, you're also driving ultimately awareness. And events is for me like linked to an interest stage. So they're interested only, but they haven't quite like the desire yet. But it could be also sometimes a desire that's a bit ambiguous. And the referrals is really where you need to generate awareness.
And I think Daniela is making a very good distinction here. And when it comes to events, why that is in the interest stage is because it requires more from the customer. He has to take some sort of action to actually take part of this event. And so that already shows that we're a bit further along the line, because it's more of a commitment. And as soon as they're making a commitment, that is a positive sign.
Yeah. And I have two questions here. One from Richard. Thank you, Richard, for submitting this question. In your experience, what revenue value, apart from subscription, should be expected from customers? For example, 20 users, 50 users, or 100 users. Does the revenue increase even though there is an IT department? I think that if I understand this question correctly, like when you do this kind of outreach to new customers, that's something that you need to like the average deal size. So whether it be 20, 50, or 100 users is more or less the same average deal size you will have with outbound. So it really depends on the kind of database you're buying and the kind of companies that you have in there. So if you look at companies from between 1 and 250 employees, the average deal size would still be the same. And I haven't seen, we haven't conducted any analysis between to see if there's a correlation between the revenue and the implication or the involvement of an IT department. And I'm not sure whether there is one and whether this would be an interesting insight to have. Really, what you want to drive ultimately is the average number of licenses that you can sell and the services that you can sell to those customers, and make as well generate awareness of your company on the market.
And just as a reference, I quite recently helped one of our partners, and this just shows you how important what Daniel is talking about. That you have a methodology where you track everything, because in that case, we were seeing that the leads that were or the deals that were being closed were much smaller than expected, and we first thought maybe it's due to the sales reps. But then we actually went back in the workflow and saw that the raw leads we were getting were not of the size that we agreed upon with the supplier. So unless you're tracking what you're forecasting and what your actuals are, you can't know if who's to blame here.
Yeah.
But thanks to actually doing some proper analysis and actually having the data to back it up with, we could move on that.
Absolutely, that's really important. We have another thing, another question from Siegfried. Hi, Siegfried. Cold calls are not allowed in Germany. To be honest, Siegfried, we have our outbound operational center calling 8 hours a day into Germany. There are three resources dedicated to the German, so DACH market, Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. And they have never faced any kind of problems with cold calling into the German market. And I myself have been cold calling as well into the German market. Cold calls are not, there's like, as far as I know, are not legally like there's no legal restraint on that. Philip also points out that return on investment and attendance are an issue with events. Absolutely. This is something that we will see also in detail when we come to it later around the different kind of activities that you can run, and we will discuss it. But that is definitely one point, that the return on investment on an event is difficult to measure, because when you see that that you're spending a lot of money on swags, on catering, on the premises that you kind of rent, etc., and the speaker, etc., that it's difficult for you to measure an impact. But with an event, there are many kind of benefits that you are taking away that are difficult to measure, such as generating new awareness of the company and branding experience that you can provide to your customers. So it's really some uplift for you as a company, as a partner, to show your brand to prospects. And as well, if you have the Google backing and those like Google support for one of the events that you're organizing, this is also driving ultimately your brand value up, and that's something that's difficult to measure.
And I just want to chime in here, as Daniela has, separated the lead sources according to what stage the customer is in. And events, I agree that they should be in the interest stage, because if you're expecting events to give you closed deals within the same quarter, then you will never have a successful event if those are the goals that you set up. So in my point of view, events are part lead generation, part marketing, and it's in the very early stages, mid to early stages of the lead flow here. I think it's important to keep that in mind, so you have the right expectations on it.
Totally agree. And Philippe, I think that in terms of events, you need to, when you say attendance is an issue, you need to kind of define a threshold again. So you need to make sure that whenever you organize an event of let's say, of a big, like where you want to have a big marketing coup, like try to define a threshold according to which you need to have at least a minimum number of people so that you can get into your break-even point, or that it really becomes profitable for you. And don't make it just for 5 people. So if you need to have 15 people, stick to it, and then you will see that everything else will eventually follow. So instead of doing 3 events or 2 events a quarter, maybe just do 1 big event in the quarter, and make it really big and appealing for customers and for yourself as well. That's one advice I would like to give to you here. So based on those different lead sources, we have different service level agreements. So, and I we want like when we say about those service level agreements, what we want to say here is really velocity is key in the small medium business segment. So basically, when we have a web form, when we have a when we have a customer contacting us who wants to buy Google Apps, we say that a website lead needs to be followed up on in less than 24 hours. And we see our sales reps actually reaching out to website leads in less than 2 hours sometimes, because it is such a valuable lead source for them. Probably Jonathan can as well share you some experience on where you kind of close the customer, like where the kind of SLA really made an impact and made a change, right?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, as soon as we're in a reactive mode, which means that the customer, there are things that have happened in the customer's psyche and the customer's evaluation process before they take some sort of action. So when a website lead comes in, there are many times that if you catch them straight away, they're still thinking about it. They still have it high on their priority list. But as with everything else, people are busy. They are juggling a million things at once. So if it goes a couple of days or two, they have started working on other projects in the meantime, and all of a sudden you don't have the share of mind of the customer. But if you're lucky, you can. I've closed deals the same day. Last day of the quarter kind of things. I've closed deals, bonus money for me, I would say.
No, it's bad. I mean, sometimes you would have someone whose Microsoft Exchange server burns down, and the sooner you can get back to this customer,
yes,
the likelihood is higher. So this is really something what I want to point out is have a process in place whereby all incoming queries from customers are really accordingly prioritized. This is all around prioritizing different leads coming from different sources. And I think that the website leads should have really highest priority here. So event leads who have attended one of your events should be followed up again as well within 48 hours, 2 working days. Webinar people who are on a desire stage would like to learn more. So the sooner you can get back to them, the better it is, because they will have the webinar present. It will be still on their mind. They will have still some lingering questions about them. So if you can get back to them within those 2 working days, you can make sure you have a good conversation with them, as opposed to getting back with them in 2 weeks time. So you see, this lead generation engine is not only about what kind of sources do I buy, leads do I buy, and who works on them, and how do I qualify them. It's also about making sure that you have like a framework across them and rules in place where you kind of make sure that the customer experience is really the best that you can offer to them. And this ultimately is closely linked to the success rate. So the sooner you can get back to those people, the higher the success rate. That's what we have seen internally. For EDM customers and direct mail customers who you have sent just an email or direct mail to, the likelihood that the sooner you get back to them, like the likelihood that they will still remember this email that they have opened, or the mail, the letter they had received, is as well higher here. So this is just like to give you some advice on that. But really what I want to share with you is really around how you can manage the funnel. So we saw that you need to bring a customer from awareness stage to the decision stage, and you need to do that in a scalable way, because it's not possible for you to let's assume you have like you have a list of 100 customers every week, and you kind of have customers who are, well, let's say warm, others who are tepid, others who are completely cold, who are not aware of it. And you need to make sure that you kind of manage them, bring them from the beginning through the end, or throughout the funnel to the end where they can make a decision, right? And you need to do that in a way which is predictable, measurable, and scalable for you, because you cannot be cold calling everyone probably. And I want to give you some advice on that. So for example, when I see like there are 3 bullet points that I want to point out very quickly. The demand management engine needs to be very well oiled. So it's an iterative process. You need to have alignment between the different counterparts, and you need to fine tune them. It's predictable because you need to measure everything that goes in, that is being processed, and needs to be coming out. So if you put 400 leads in, you need to know how many of those leads are in progress, and what quality they are, what feedback you need to provide back to your marketing department so that you can increase quality, and how many hot opportunities you can get out of there, and how many deals close finally. And it has to be scalable. Like you can afford a high touch for hot opportunities. Let's assume you have someone who has attended one of your events and is really interested in Google Apps. So this person you can go and visit. Another person who probably has attended the event but is still not quite convinced of it yet, you can then kind of nurture them, or kind of warm them up slowly through a process that you have put in place. So for example, when you see the three circles around here, that's one of the processes whereby you can scale that approach. So you would have a mass email that you would send out to your 100 leads in a week. You would have a link into that email where you invite them to a webinar. You would maybe do a follow-up call to them. So you could say, hey, I've sent you an email with an invitation to the webinar. We are partner XYZ. We would like to show you the value of the cloud computing. How about attending the webinar? You will get them, like all 100 customers, into this webinar, and those webinars can be segment specific. So you can make them centered around a specific industry. So let's say you are very focused on advocates, law firms, or you're very focused on accountancy firms. You can have a webinar which really centers around the experience that you can provide as a partner, with maybe a testimonial. So one of your previous customers showing and sharing his experience around your support in migrating over from his previous solution to Google Apps, and showing the benefits he has reaped from that switch, and making sure that those webinars are in a regular rhythm. So it's not only that you do once and that's it, but you do them maybe on a weekly, bi-weekly, on a monthly basis, so that customers can always come back to your website, can listen into that, and get like all this information they have. And then only then, once they have attended the webinar, then you have probably, out of 100 people that you have initially bought, you will have filtered that down to 25. And now 25 is a much different number than 100. So those 25 are actually the ones that are requiring your attention. They have a desire to learn more about it. So then you can really give them a follow-up call, and ask them, how did you like the webinar? How can I help you? What are the things that you want clarification on? So this is really something I want you to take away on. Build like a lead generation engine by taking different kind of activities and filtering down the only hot opportunities and then giving them the high touch. And for the other ones, make it as scalable as possible through a webinar, mass mailing, and maybe in addition to cold call. That's kind of the process I want you to and the paradigm I want you to take on. We have some questions from Luis. In a market like ours, Africa, the literacy level is quite low for cloud computing services and benefits. Where do you recommend an inclusion of this in the various stages? Awareness? So if you're saying that the people in Africa are having generally a low level of information and awareness around cloud computing services, those leads are probably those leads you definitely might need to start a campaign around educating those people and creating awareness around the product and the services that you build. And you need to do that again in a scalable way. So do that through the webinar support, do that through emails where you can send them out to, so that you can have one-to-many touches rather than doing the cold call immediately. And the cold call is something that you can use as a complementary. So anytime you have maybe in a webinar that you're organizing, you're sending out an invitation to, or an email that you send out to, then you can do this kind of cold call and generate awareness, right? And this gives you an additional reason to call into that customer's company.
And also, especially if the knowledge about cloud computing is very low, I would focus on events and traditional events where companies attend. See if you can actually have some sort of speaking engagement there, because what you're doing is you have an educator's role. So there's lots of opportunity there. If the awareness is low, you can position yourself as a thought leader on this topic. So find out where do companies go, where do they congregate, and start preaching.
And at the same time, Luis, you may want to consider as well reaching out to one of the other companies in your industry, maybe not like maybe someone like SAP or another enterprise company who is looking into marketing their cloud solution in the African markets. So for example, if I take SAP, they have the same customer segment as most of our customers, as most of our partners, right? And they are looking into launching a new cloud product, and they're facing the same kind of challenges that you have. And on this specific point, I think that you need to get in touch with those persons and maybe make a co-event with them, and where you can co-brand yourself with a large company and drive and evangelize Google Apps. That's just a thought that you can that you may be able to use to your own benefit. We have a question from David Glynn. David, I didn't forget you. So you mentioned Google support. What support does Google give to partner events? That's a very interesting question, David. Thanks for asking. So basically, you know, as I hope you know by now, we have a tiering program that will be effective very soon. Our partners, we will have 2 tracks, the SMB and the enterprise track. And within the different tracks, we will have different ranges. So we will have a status of authorized resellers and a status of premier resellers. SMB premier resellers are resellers which have proven themselves in the small medium business market. So everything from 1 to 250 employee companies. And those resellers will be notified shortly, and they will have different kind of benefits as the SMB authorized resellers, which are not there yet, but hopefully will be soon. And as if you kind of qualify for the tiering if you kind of qualify for the SMB Premier status, then you will have a dedicated account manager and support for the event. So there will be marketing development funds, and those kind of things are still in negotiation internally. But you will be having much more support for those events than an authorized reseller right now. And so that is hopefully that answers your question. When it comes to requirements, I can very quickly give you an overview. As an SMB Premier reseller, you need to have sold at least 150 Google Apps for Business licenses in 1 year to 15 different customers. You need to have one certified deployment specialist, and you need to have published at least 2 customer success stories, so 2 testimonials, case studies that you can publish. And as soon as you entitled for this, you will be entitled and qualified Premier status.
And this is Jonathan here again. And since this isn't finalized yet, these are subject to change. So, as Daniela said, it's still in negotiation phase. We're finalizing it, but the basic principle that there will be more resources to the ones who have proven themselves that they can be effective in the market.
And I hope you can understand it, because we have more than 1,400 resellers in EMEA, so Europe, Middle East, and Africa, and we cannot support financially every event. And we want to make sure that we give that to the partners who really invested in heavily in setting up the lead generation engine efforts, who have invested in resourcing and taking their Google Apps practice to the next level. So I hope that everyone will take advantage of this training so that they can become the next premier partners, and therefore being entitled to more benefits. So let's look at the different activities that you can do. I had the slide open for quite a while now, but so you see here that we have created for you a demand generation toolbox, and the demand generation toolbox is really for you like a set of tools and set of like templates that you can use for your own demand generation efforts. And it's still work in progress, and we can probably improve it based on your requests and your feedback, but I hope that's already a good start. So if we talk about webinars are really a great way. I hope that everyone picked up on this yet by now. Is a great way to scale your reach to customers in a way that, for example, we do webinars on a regular basis now, in this case, for example, to you partners, but even to our prospects and customers on a weekly basis. For 1 hour, we reach out to all the customers, and it's a very easy way for us to reach as many customers as possible with one resource. It's really a good resource as well to have in your bundle of marketing material, because you can redirect cold or tepid leads to them. So let's assume I take the example of a cold lead that you have called, and he says, oh, Google Apps sounds interesting, and you provide very interesting services around it. But yeah, I'm not sure I'm quite there yet. Maybe in 9 months' time I'm there, and we can have a chat by then. So you can use that webinar to drive that person maybe to that to the webinar, and increase their level of interest and keep them engaged in the services you are offering, so that they can then come back to you after 9 months. So a regular rhythm is really good. Changing topics is good. Customer testimonials have a very high impact. So you are the ones working with the end customers. You have deployed so many users. Try to capitalize on it. Try to get your testimonials work for you. So it's really a word of mouth, but as well making sure that whenever you have a good customer that could make a good promotion for you, a good publicity for you, make them really get a video testimonial on your website, on YouTube, for example, or publish a case study for them in PDF and publish that on our blog, or publish that on your website, so that really new prospects can get a good insight into what you have done and what has worked well. And this increases as well your level of professionalism, and your level of credibility for any new customer or any new prospect for that matter. And one way, for example, to think about how you can get those customer testimonials is as well that, let's assume that you are talking to a customer or to a prospect, and he's interested in Google Apps, and you're negotiating with him on the scope of services that you will deliver to this company. So he's quite convinced that he needs some on-site training, but he's not very convinced he needs you to deploy the solution, right? So let's say you negotiate with him and you say, listen, dear customer, what I will do for you, dear client, what I will do for you, I will offer you the deployment for free. And and then in return you commit yourself to spend 1 hour after this deal is closed with me, so that you can so that I can do a video testimonial for you. So having this kind of agreement or engagement with your customer is very important, and this way you can really capitalize and scale this as much as possible. We have a question from Mark. You just said we could publish case studies on our blog. If you mean a Google blog, how do we do that, please? Mark, interesting question. For the moment, I'm getting queries. You can send them directly to me. And then it has to be internally reviewed by each marketing team sitting in each region. I need to find a better way of handling them. But if you have some testimonial you need to, that is really urgent, and you would like to publish, just send it to me at esposito@google.com.
But just to chime in, we do have a process for it. Maybe it's not the most efficient, but marketing team will take a look at all requests for these. Some of them make it through, but not all of them. Of course.
Yeah, sure. I mean, what happens is that I will forward it to our marketing team, let's say in France or Spain or Italy, Germany or whatever, and they review that case study, and they need to make sure that it certain has a certain level of aptitude for the general Google blog. So it takes a little while, but yeah, that's kind of the opportunity you have. So when we talk about webinars, and I hope I could convince you a bit about the opportunity that lies within webinars, I've shared with you a slide deck for webinar, as well as localized webinar invitation templates. So if we go on the slide deck for webinar, that's something you already know probably. It's on our website, and I think you cannot. So if you go on the slide deck for webinar, you can go directly to our SMB partner portal, and you will have access to the webinar material in French, Italian, Spanish, German. So when I talk about webinar material, I'm referring to the Yaps Golden Pitch, which you can use for your prospects, which is now available in 14 European languages. So I know it's still in Google, it's still in Microsoft PowerPoint format. This is because our translation agency works in PowerPoint, unfortunately. But I wanted to get that out to you as quickly as possible, so there was no time for conversion. I hope you can appreciate and understand this. So you will have the Apps Golden Pitch, which you can use. And you will have as well 100% web webinar material, which you can use in French, Italian, French, Spanish, German, Dutch, and English. And it's a very good way to present our 100% web vision. And there will be as well speaker notes beyond every slide. And if you have any additional requests as to localization, so translation of this material, just click on submit your idea. And this holds true for anything really. Anything where you can really think of where you need to localize anything, or where you need new marketing material, just type it in, and I will review that with our channel marketing manager, right? So this is really around the webinar slide deck that you will have. And what I did then, I created a toolbox for you, and I will go through it very quickly, and I will share it with you after the webinar. So the objective is really to share with you best practices around what you can do and how you can really adopt lead generation best practices very quickly. So you will have here, for example, invitation templates in Dutch or in Italian or Spanish, which you can use for your own promotion of webinars. You will have localized webinar slide decks and cold calling material, but we will go to that in detail on the next slide. So this is really what I will be sharing with you after the webinar, to one spot where you can get all the material from, and I hope that this will be useful. When we talk about tools, there are tools such as Cisco WebEx, which we are using internally, and Adobe Connect, where you can as well use the free version and go ahead and deliver and host on-demand webinars. Other activities for the demand generation, we have, for example, mass mailing. It's a very scalable one-to-many activity, but in order to be successful, you will have a low conversion rate. 2% is the industry standard. It may be a bit higher than that, but I was very conservative here. In order to make it much more successful, we have actually seen that you need to have some customer success stories at hand. So customer success stories are something that we share as well in our toolbox or on our site. And this is something which is shared on our portal. So if I go back to the portal, you can see here on apps resources right now the EVM, the customer value statements that you can use. So if we click on that, you can see all the kind of all the kind of statements made by customers who have gone Google. And it's very powerful to go just into a conversation with a customer with a specific customer quote and quote that. And the best thing is really all of those are split by industry. So you can go into retail, high tech, real estate, and so on. And they are hard, tangible benefits. So you will see here 60% total email cost reduction. So it's very measurable, and you can be using that in your emails, in your cold callings, in your webinars, it also in your visits to clients. Just print it out, this kind of slide deck, and give it to the client if they are still not convinced, and say, listen, those are customers who have gone Google. They are very tangible benefits. They are very big companies. Most of them are still American. Apologies for that, but we're looking into making it more European as we go forward. And this will inevitably increase the success of your mass mailing campaign. Another thing, another way for you to generate new leads will be referrals. It's a very cheap source of leads because you have already an existing network and you will have probably a good deal of influence in that. And I want you to think about it more strategically. Probably this is the lead source you're most familiar with, right? If we look at one of our sales reps, Christina, who has designed a referral program extra for you as a resellers. And I would like to invite you to review that document after our webinar and make sure that you kind of adopt the best practices. So we say that we give some advice on how you can structure a referral program, what kind of benefits can you give, what kind of follow-up email can you be using, what kind of gifts and gets, so what are the things that you can offer to them. So those are really some high-level things that you need to think of, and where we hope you can adopt them very quickly as well, and where we want to enable you as much as we can. So we go back to the point that Philip has pointed out around events. It's not a very scalable activity. It's a good resource, though, to create one-on-one, very engaged customer conversation. And having personal customer testimonials there is really something that will have probably the most impact. But again, be sure that you define thresholds and the minimum amount of attendees that you need to have so that you can actually justify the cost and the expense and the investment you make. So this was all around outbound lead generation. When we look into inbound lead generation, there is something that is where I can help you a bit less right now in this webinar, which is around the website toolbox, maybe capturing upfront in a website form all the information that you need from your customers, and it can be very basic, such as the email server they are using right now, the decision time frame, and the job title. Based on those criteria, you can actually and the number of employees, you can actually very quickly prioritize different leads, and that's actually something where you need to think of who do I give attention to and at what time.
And also, do I have a different approach for different sizes of companies? Like if it's a really large company, you probably want to be face to face with them as soon as possible. Like that's your first interaction. Medium sized, maybe a phone meeting will be good enough. And the micro small ones, you have to have probably a more automated way. So.
Yeah. We have a question from Luis. Would you recommend having a price tag to the events, or should it entirely be our own marketing investment? So what you're saying, Luis, just correct me if I'm wrong, is should we have customers pay for this event, or should we be paying ourselves, right?
I think that's letter.
Okay, so if that means that, that's an interesting point of view, Luis. Probably that is something that so okay, yes, I have the confirmation. So they should pay for the event. It's an interesting thought, Luis. I've been thinking about it as well, on some occasions as well, in terms of events and trainings that we organize. So there's one misconception most of the times nowadays. If you don't pay for anything right now or nowadays, it's not valuable anything, right? And I've been talking to a partner of ours, one of your colleagues out there, who has told me, listen, Daniela, one nice idea would be to organize an on-site event for some EMEA partners in a year. And I did that actually when, like, this partner was telling me he did that as well when he worked at another company before, and he got all his partners on board for an event. They did some very nice team bonding exercise, etc. But he had them pay €100. So it's a symbolic fee for most of the people who are attending an event like this, because an event like this costs probably more than $2,000 or $1,000 a person, a company actually. But having this symbolic fee actually shows some commitment, shows some engagement of the people. Now, in a partner ecosystem, this is a bit different, because a partner relationship is a bit different from a partner customer relationship. So this is something where I'm a bit divided, or where I'm a bit on the spot, to be honest, and where I cannot provide a 100% recommendation. Those are my thoughts, but I think Jonathan has as well some thoughts on that.
My thoughts are exact. Okay, now I'm starting to cough here as well. My thoughts are, in the example that you used, Daniela, when there were partners who were invited. The ones who attended and the ones who actually paid the fee, they knew that they were getting a substantial value out of it. Potential customers don't.
Yeah.
So
good point.
So in that case, always ask yourself. Imagine if you were a customer and you say, "Would I pay to go to this?" Well, the answer would be that depends. So it's going to depend on what the event actually contains.
The value proposition you are offering.
If it's just you talking about what Google Apps can do for businesses, I'm going to say no one will pay for that. But if you have an event that has many different, if you have a co-branded event, like you have other companies who not providing cloud solutions, but other business solutions, maybe you can do a joint event. Maybe so there's enough value in one single event that people will actually pay a bit for it.
But just on taking the point from building up on the point that Jonathan mentioned, what's in it for me, or seeing it from a customer perspective, to be honest, Luis, I probably wouldn't pay for those events most of the time. So because there are really so many events out there, so many solution providers offering that. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't be considering it. I like the question. I like this challenging thought. So maybe with our thoughts on Jonathan and I, you kind of can come to a conclusion for yourself.
As a last recommendation for that, start doing some Google searches for events in your region. Look at the ones where you actually have to pay to go. I mean, any type of event, and see what is what do they share in common? What are they actually providing, which allows for them to actually charge for it?
Okay, I think I need to go a bit faster so that we can stay in time. AdWords is a very interesting. Basically, on website we were looking at the template. We were looking at how, like, I will be sharing that as well with you. But make sure that you capture the most relevant information and prioritize your leads accordingly based on the job title, the employee size, etc., etc. And we're working at the same time on website templates for partners. I don't know when the live date is going to be. Right now, it seems like it's going to be the first quarter of 2012. But we're working on templates that you can use to create your own website. This will hopefully as well help you a bit in the inbound on building your web presence. When it comes to generating demand through AdWords, that's a very good way, effective way of generating new leads. And we will have a best practice training from Clement, who is our AdWords specialist, and that will be on Friday. Make sure that please make sure that you attend this training, because First of all, this training is very valuable for you to understand how you can use AdWords, and how you can leverage it to generate new leads and high quality leads as well. Second of all, in this training, after this training, we will be inviting you to take an exam. So this exam will cover some of the questions, or actually questions covered, topics covered in this training. And if you are successful in passing this exam, you will be entitled to be whitelisted. So you will be actually allowed to use the Google brand in your Google AdWords ads. So this is something very powerful because not all of our partners have it. So please make sure you attend this webinar. Then another thing is really around the marketplace, the Google Apps marketplace. I don't know how many of you are on it or are aware of it, but you can create your own listing and promote your business through the marketplace. I know the marketplace is not 100% adapt for European countries yet, because you cannot just dive into a particular French or European into any European country, but as a matter of fact, if people are looking for you on that marketplace or want to see the services you offer, at least they can find you there. So please go on the link after the webinar and try to file in the request for that. It's a $100 one-off fee, so you pay it only once, and then you can create your listing and promote your business on the marketplace. It's a very excellent way to drive demand and generate awareness of your company on a very specific segment of groups of people interested actually in Google Apps. So we will now pass into the second step of this process of framework, which is around initial lead processing. And in the initial lead processing, there are two things that you need to do. First, it's really qualifying the leads. So you have bought the leads right now. We have finished the initial marketing work. You have really generated leads from webinars, from cold calling, from mass emails. You have bought a database, whatever. And now you're looking at processing those leads. So there are two things you need to qualify them, and you need to you need to train the people who are qualifying those leads, because they need to be skilled enough to do that, right? So when we talk about lead qualification, I think you have all participated to the training of Jonathan around the band and qualification discovery. We would like to encourage every one of you to stick to the band qualification discovery questions. The band qualification criteria actually allows you to focus your time on the most important opportunities. So you will make sure that you have the authority, need, and time frame of every lead you're calling in, and then you know that you can transfer this lead to the sales rep, and that this lead is hot enough so that they actually can be converted. And that's really something that I want you to take away once more. You need to define goals in terms of number of qualified opportunities that are finally accepted by a sales rep. So you need to have some sort of a mechanism in place and tracker mechanism to see, okay, my DMR is qualifying all of those opportunities, but only 20% of them close. And 80% are actually being rejected because they don't match the specific time frame or need criteria or authority criteria. So you need to have always this constant measuring and feedback loop in place, so you can make sure that this kind of transition from the DMR to sales reps is seamless. Last but not least, the DMR, so the person really qualifying the leads, needs to be trained. They need to be trained in the product knowledge, in the knowledge of the product, of course, and the objection handling, because they are the first ones to talk to customers or prospects who are not aware of the solution. So when we get back to the example of Africa, where the level of literacy, the level of literacy in cloud computing was generally quite low, as Louis pointed out. Then what we want to do is we want to skill and train the demand management representative so that he can actually explain to customers what cloud computing is. Sorry. And in Poland too, as Michal says. So cloud computing needs to be actually evangelized by you as our partners and Google, and your demand management representatives need to be skilled enough to do that. And they need to be skilled enough to handle objections around data privacy and security.
And I have a comment on regarding to the skill level. And this is a case where, because the demand management team is there. You can see them as the first responders. So if you feel that you've trained them enough and they have enough of a skill level, then you can be quite lenient in the qualification criteria. So when I say there is that the the information that you require to be captured in the lead, you can be quite flexible there. But if you're unsure of their knowledge and their skill, then you maybe have to be a bit more strict. You may have to have like a form that or a checklist that they must fill out information on this, and that before it can actually be seen as a qualified opportunity. So make that and that needs to be a continuous process. If you feel that the leads that your sales reps are working on aren't up to the right quality, you basically have two options. You can train the DMRs, or you can change the acceptance criteria, or you can do both.
It's a very important part, actually. You need to kind of tweak that and make sure that this works together. Thank you, Jonathan. I think that this is really something that I want you to take away, is really to have that proper qualification discovery process in place. Because you don't want, what you don't want is that you have someone that you decide after this webinar, I need to invest in demand generation. Then you allocate someone to do that, but like they don't stick to a proper framework. So you need to make sure that the framework they use is something that is very easy to understand and which allows you to tweak it. So the band is really good, and then talk with the sales reps, like as Jonathan said, and kind of fine-tune it as you go, make it stricter, make it better, so that it really applies to your organization. So that is really the IAT criteria is therefore very important for me. So when we talk about cold calling, therefore, the good part is, of course, it's a very good way to drive awareness of your company. It's a good source of leads to redirect. Because you will be generating new leads which are maybe cold or tepid, and you can then really use those people and redirect them to webinars. So you see, you will have a lead generation engine in place where you can originate new leads and then pass them on to the next level in a scalable way, so that you don't waste any time into follow-up calls, and that is really important for me. And having customer success stories at hand is also very important. The results are probably not immediate. The sales cycle may be a bit longer, but you will have a good way of positioning yourself, your company, the services that you offer, and increase the awareness. The conversion rate in the industry standard is around 5% right now. We're looking at achieving or aiming a higher than an industry standard. And so again, the toolbox here is really about the band qualification criteria, the discovery questions. We will have some telescripts for you as well. So if you look at this, it's not this one. It is this one. So if you look at this spreadsheet afterwards, you will have here the cold calling process and some questions sampled. You can look before, so this is more like of a guide of someone that does the cold calling. So research the account beforehand and check on the website the industry, activity of the company, read recent news, the office locations, how you can introduce yourself to the secretary and to the prospect, how you make the transition, what are the questions you want to ask. So something that we have already in the band and discovery, but more in a process framework. We have as well some checklists. So after a call, what are the things that you want to have after the call? So authority, environment, need, time frame. Some conversation starters, common objections, how to handle them, and some voicemail templates as well. So take the time to go through it afterwards and review it. So this is really a typical call sequence. So you would have your first call with the script that I just showed you. You would do maybe an elevator pitch where where Jonathan has talked to you in the ESP training part, the first part as well. You would have some customer references in hand. in the first email, if you cannot get hold of the person, you introduce yourself, you ask for a time when they are available. Then you would have a second call where you would try again and introduce yourself. And then in second email, you would stop usually in sending emails. You would just try to invite them to a webinar, say you have tried reaching out to the customer, but they are not there. But you can still go on calling and calling. There's no limit to calling, but I think that 2 emails are enough, because otherwise you would just be deterring every prospect. Customer references are really powerful. Make sure that you use the EVM material, and as I said out, negotiate with your customers, give and get their buy-in into being your testimonial by the end of the deployment, and you give them in exchange a training for free or something like that. So the personal elevator pitch, I think we shouldn't be spending too much time on that, but when you have someone, the idea of an elevator pitch is to generate interest on the person you're talking to. When you see that the person is really juggling between different things and is not really focused, like, it has to be a short speech of 20 to 30 seconds long, which inspires interest or curiosity in that what you're saying. And we will be sharing with you some elevator pitch samples, which you can then adopt in your company. So now we will go into that third bullet, which is around nurturing. As I told you, nurturing means really keeping the leads warm. Leads warms which fit a certain criteria. So here in Google we say every decision time frame less than 12 months. Like a prospect which has a decision time frame less than 12 months will be actively nurtured by us, so by the DMR. Everything that will be which has a decision time frame more than 12 months will not be done by sales, but marketing. And so we will have probably some automation of marketing tools where this can be done in an automated way. You can have webinars and newsletters, which are an excellent way to keep qualified leads warm and remind them you are there, you are doing, and you're taking care of them. And as well, like when you think about data quality or the CRM, when you talk to a customer, you have qualified him and you see that he's not willing to make a change right now. Try to understand what is driving him in his decision. Try to have a driving criteria for him and try to put it somewhere in your CRM. Because then when you write webinars or newsletters, you can specifically target this customer with a specific message. You can send them to a webinar centered around productivity and collaboration, as opposed to a webinar centered around mobility, or sending a newsletter, etc., etc. So this is really something that you need to take into account. We had a question from Barbara. What were the forbidden words on the previous slides? Why, for example, email? No, this was actually, so in the cloud elevator pitch, I wanted, this is actually more of an inspirational exam. So when I say 100% web or cloud or email are forbidden words, I want the people to be thinking a bit more out of the box, because 100% web is not something everyone knows and everyone can relate to. Email is fine for me, but cloud is also a term which has been used several times on several occasions by several providers, and no one knows anymore what the real notion of a cloud is. There's hybrid clouds, private, public clouds. Make sure that this elevator pitch you're delivering is straight to the point and is still very intriguing, like very interesting for the customer. That's what I meant, sorry.
Yeah. So there were recommendations, not actual...
Okay, so we have a question from Luis. Out of curiosity, on average, how many months of training time does Google invest in a new sales rep they hire? 1 month, 2 months. So according to a lead generation report I've read recently, the average ramp-up time is actually 3 months for a new lead generation representative. What we have seen observed internally, it takes probably between somewhere 2 to 3 months until you're really fully operational and you can really execute fully on handle all the objections and really be have your own pitch and your own style and be successful. It takes a while, so 2 to 3 months, and we can certainly improve some things internally as well. But the industry standard was somewhere around 3 months in an independent report. A question from Michael. Do you have a 5-star elevator pitch example?
You should never. There are no, as you say, cookie cutter pitches, because I hear you always hear when someone else has come up with a pitch, and in that sense that it's the person who's delivering it didn't write it or create it. You can hear that straight away, because it has to be using the words that come naturally to you. So there is no shortcut to it. Basically, my general recommendation is the only thing you need to do is time yourself, have a watch. I would first sit there and write it down. Basically, if it just needs to answer one or two questions. Why? I mean, from the listener's perspective, why is this relevant to my company, and why should I keep on listening?
I think there, like on top of that, there are two questions which you can immediately start answering. That's the way how I built my elevator pitch. One, the first question I had is what is it that people love about our product and our services that we deliver to them? What is it they love about the technology, right? So with this question, you answer them. You put some bullet points like innovation and mobility, access anywhere, blah blah blah. So this is the first question you need to answer for yourself. The second question you need to answer is really, what do I love about Google's products? It's something around innovation and friendliness and something like that. And try then to merge those two together and then come up with something like something intriguing. And we have some examples, of course, but like as Jonathan pointed out, it's better if you come up with your own.
I would say it's out of the question to use a pre-made one, because it's not gonna sound like you, and you will miss the target completely if you don't create your own.
So Adriano is pointing out mailing 2% conversion rate, cold calling 5% conversion rate. Events do not produce results immediately. In your opinion, what is the best source of good outbound leads and higher conversion outbound leads? So what I was sharing in terms, Adriano, the numbers I was sharing were some industry standards, of course. I hope that with this training, you will be able to, first of all, overachieve on that. And as well, it depends totally on the kind of process you're setting up. So basically, if you're saying that cold calling 5% conversion rate, it depends on the kind of quality of database you're buying. It depends on what kind of information you have on there. So if you have some strategic information, such as the email platform they're using right now, which may result in a higher cost of purchase for the database, the conversion rate may be much higher, because you can target your prospects much more accurately, whilst if you don't have that data.
And also the simple answer is focus on the warm leads. So how do you get the warm leads? And warm leads are the reactive ones when the customer is reaching out to you. So this is basic. Your website, search engine optimization. Look at your AdWords campaigns, because if you do it correctly, you will catch the companies who are right now actually looking for a solution like Google Apps, or trying to solve a specific problem. So make sure that you position your messaging that on specific scenarios that customers usually try to solve by using Google Apps.
And I think it's difficult to give a general recommendation. It depends ultimately on your specific environment and your specific goals, Adriano. But like the way I see it personally, you have already built up customer relationships. You have worked so hard to build them up. So use them at the very start, and I think naturally every one of you has a tendency to leverage your network, your existing network. And I think get a bit smarter about the way you can generate new referrals. So I will share with you a referrals process, and if you have questions, don't hesitate to ask them. But referrals for me is a very intuitive and easy way to reach out to new clients and get new clients. And make sure that if you have those referrals, make sure that you have webinars in place, because webinars are ultimately the go-to source for you. Because any referral that you have who may be interested but not absolutely 100% sure about it, you can redirect them to a webinar. Any kind of website lead who is coming to you, who may show that he's high degree of interest and desire, but still not 100% convinced, you can redirect them to a webinar. The ones that you are reaching out to on your own through cold calling or emailing or mailing campaigns, you can also point them again to a webinar. And this kind of things, the conversion rate for webinars is much higher because they have actually proactively signed up for it. They attend it. They take 1 hour. In your case, you take even 2 hours time to attend this webinar and stay focused on it and ask all the questions. So you see the degree of involvement I have from you guys is much different from someone who's not signing up for a webinar. So use the webinar as a scalable resource to generate those new leads and keep them and move them along the funnel. So you need to have a healthy mixture between referrals, your website, optimize it through AdWords, which we'll see on Friday, doing cold calling, and having regular rhythm of webinars in place.
What's your opinion on on-demand webinars, pre-recorded ones using YouTube?
On the on-demand webinars, probably I would be using on-demand webinars if I was a partner for customer success stories. Probably as well. It's a difficult one. Probably I wouldn't be using so much the on-demand webinars
because it can't replace the interactivity, right?
Yeah, it's like for you, like the interactivity is really key, Jonathan. Actually, when you are a solution provider, you want to make sure that you get capture all the questions they have, and you can provide answers. And if you have on-demand webinars, you will not be able. So I would tend to say, make live webinars. And on-demand webinars or on-demand videos just for customer testimonials or success stories that you have had, so that any prospect or any new customer can actually go to your website and review them. So then we have a question. In your experience, what is the best target email platform to target? Exchange, on-site? That is also a difficult question to generalize. I mean, we have seen different successes with IBM Notes, Lotus Notes, or Microsoft Exchange, and I think everyone is more or less apt.
Yeah, I think Exchange on-site Exchange, because it's usually it's a very costly and complex. I would say Lotus Notes as well, because as an ex-IBMer, no one really likes Lotus Notes. But there are certain things, but you can't generalize. Like, there are certain things you need to keep in mind when addressing Exchange, and that is, for example, are they married, so to speak, to Outlook? Are they comfortable in going for the 100% web browser? In Lotus Notes, there will be technical dependencies. What have they tied into their Lotus Notes platform? Because you can plug in pretty much anything there. So there's no, but on-premise definitely. The ones who are on ISP hosted solutions, maybe not as good of a target as the on-premise ones, because when they're on an ISP, it's usually dirt cheap, little to no functionality, and that may show that they don't value email and collaboration solutions that highly. But just generalizations. There's a different approach for everything.
Okay, I think we need to go on a bit. I think we need to go on to the next point, and then kind of take the questions, answers afterwards. Yeah. So the last point is really around reporting and the systems you have in place. And I wanted to share with you very quickly some KPIs, so key performance indicators, that you can use to track the success and the outcomes of your activities in terms of demand generation. So there are some things like as pipeline, the dollar amount of pipeline that you generate, so the number of opportunities that you create, and the pipeline that you convert, of course. Then you will look at activity level very quickly as well, the number of calls that you made and how many talking times you had, and the revenue impact very importantly, because that is what ultimately drives your company. So you need to see at how much revenue did I close from opportunities generated by my outbound operations, and you can measure that in an easy way, hopefully. And last but not least, I wanted to share with you really some benchmarks, so you know really what you can expect from someone allocated to outbound calling or outbound prospecting, let's say. So the ratio we have right now within Google is 1 DMR, so one resource for each sales rep. So each sales rep gets more or less one person allocated to the lead generation. So there's like lots of lead generation going on, and so that's the kind of ratio that you can assume for when you build up your own internal lead generation engine as well. The average monthly quota for appointments or qualified opportunities according to the band criteria are 12 to 15. So 12 to 15 qualified opportunities, not leads, sorry, that is a typo. So it would be 12 to 15 qualified opportunities, and that could be as well 12 to 15 customer visits, for example. That could be for you like a criteria. So you say, he has the authority, he has the need, he has a time frame. Now he will set 15 appointments in a given month. That's the kind of what we can expect from a DMR here in Google. We also require each DMR to do an average number of calls of 50 dials, 50 calls per day. So 40 conversations to 50 conversations. Really.
So you're talking conversations, not actually dialed.
Conversations.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So thanks for the clarification. The calls are more important than emails. I think you have seen that in the diagram before, where I said stop after the second email if you cannot get a hold of the prospect, but you can still continue calling because we have seldom closed a deal just via email.
This is also something I do in sales training for sales reps. Here's my one sentence guidance on how to do. How to use email with your customers. Don't. It's as simple as that. Emails aren't interactive, and you can't negotiate in an email. And everything is a negotiation. So I'm not going to dwell on this, but for example, let's say a customer, he asks you a question to specify a certain if a certain key functionalities exist within Google Apps. When he's asking this of you, that's a buying signal. He's showing interest. If you reply to that email says it does this, and this, and then you tag on to the end. Oh, by the way, could we have a joint meeting with your managers to see to talk more in depth? Why? Of course they're going to turn you down because you've just given them everything they wanted because you have no negotiation room when using email.
Thank you, Jonathan. I think there's one last point I want to highlight as well is the accepted opportunities by sales rep. So it's important. The DMR is generating those qualified opportunities. You need to set a threshold. You need to set a goal of opportunities that are qualified by the sales, are accepted by a sales rep. So we take internally 80-90% is our goal. That's what we are aiming at. Try to get there as well, based on what you have mutually discussed and on the mutual agreement that you have obtained internally. So now we're going to the last slide, and then we go to the question and answers. This is really just some additional foods for thought. So in terms of volume, and I think Adriano already anticipated this question, what is the right mix of lead source? You need to think really, how much pipeline do I need to reach? How much pipeline do I need to reach our goals? What percentage of revenue should come from the indirect sales? What should come from direct sales? And what is the lead sources that are driving those kind of targets? So should it come from webinars? Should it come from cold calls, etc., etc.? How much should come from the website? The velocity is very important. How long does it take you from bringing a lead to an opportunity stage? And how fast can we turn nurtured leads into opportunities again? And then afterwards, the third one is really in the funnel, the conversion of those leads. What is our ability to qualify leads and turn them into opportunities? Really measure that conversion rate. Who is our most effective sales representatives? What are they doing? What is good what they are doing? Share those best practices in your company. And last but not least, what are our most effective sales and marketing campaigns? So you can reiterate on them or see what was particularly well on them and try to re-leverage that. So yeah, that's basically it from our side. I think we now have time to take. Well, we have already taken quite a few questions. But we're happy to take questions now. Maybe we'll leave you one minute time to.
Yeah.
Sorry, you had something.
I'm just gonna. We noticed in the Q&A section there was Michelle's sent in a question like 20 minutes ago about AdWords. You had a question about preventing tunnel vision. Now we have the AdWords webinar.
Friday.
It's on Friday. So could you make sure that you attend that one and remember that question, because you'll be talking to someone who has a lot of experience within AdWords.
So thank you guys. We have a few questions, but please submit them. Try submitting them. I have just a very general remark. If you have users who need access to the SMB Partner Portal, or anyone else for that matter, please go to the Partner Portal yourself and then click on Share the Site. You will have a form, and then you can add the people who should have access to. So you will see a button there, and then you can submit that.
Okay, I have a question from Mark. This is regarding the website. They're generating traffic, but they have a low amount of signups and inquiries coming through. What's the best method to generate that action? Do you use a free 30-day trial, for example? In this case, this is about usually about landing page quality. Mark, also attend the one on Friday, because we have one of our experts on AdWords. He'll probably be able to help you navigate the questions regarding landing page design. But what I would say is that number one is have multiple calls to action on your website. So there must be numerous ways that they can interact with you. So it should be phone, email, fax, as many ways that they can get in contact with you as possible, or a contact form as well.
I think what we have seen as well is some partners adopting a live chat as well. It's something that you can integrate and embed on your website and have a chat functionality. And depending on your availability, you can have someone chat with you while he's on your website. And also a nice feature, make some proposals yourself, which you can then automatically generate in a PDF form and get some feedback on. So those are things where you can improve your website.
On the last point I would like to make here, a really good way of thinking about your website is you wanna educate some of your customers. So bring up some of the high level problems or issues that you can address with Google Apps. So you state a problem. It's like, okay, this is a problem we're seeing in the industry, and then have a big button that says contact our sales department, and we can help you out to talk, or have a conversation with one of our product experts to see how this applies to you. So pose questions, and then you have the call to action, so that that's how they can get a lot of their answers.
Barbara, will the material from this webinar be available this week on the partner program? The slide deck will be available afterwards, and all the toolbox that I've shared to you during this presentation, I will make them available after this webinar and host them on the SMB Partner Portal, yes. The video itself probably will take a bit longer this time, because the colleague who's managing the YouTube channel is currently out of office. So it will probably take a bit longer this time until you have that video on demand available on YouTube. But the material itself will be hosted on the SMB Partner Portal within this working day. I will be doing that.
Louis had a question that was just regarding Lotus Notes. And the question was, the CIO of the customer company can't seem to accept that, and he thinks that Notes is cheaper to maintain than Google Apps. I'd say any on-premise solution is going to be more expensive than a cloud solution, just because of that the maintenance costs so much. It's physical maintenance of their IT staff. They need to have hardware maintenance on their servers, because otherwise they won't get any help if they break down. And they need to pay software maintenance as well on the licenses there for the upgrades and the support. So in that case, you need to challenge that statement straight away. Ask them about, okay, so what does your total cost of ownership look like? Break it down into hardware, software licenses, maintenance, etc., etc. But it's completely, what he's probably saying is that, oh yes, I've already paid for my Lotus Note license. That means he's on an if he's not paying any maintenance costs, he's on a completely unsupported solution, and that is really dangerous. Let's see here. More questions. we've answered that.
Question last one. Question on last week's presentation on objection handling and closing. Will there be an online training session at some point that covers closing strategies, or do we just take that from the, or do we just take that what we have from the deck? Thank you for the question, Jake. Yeah, as I pointed out, my colleague is unfortunately not there right now. We're waiting for her to come back, and then we will upload the webinar training sessions. The live webinar one on objection handling and the second one on closing techniques. In the meantime, please feel free to take what you have on the deck, but the on-demand webinar will be made available as soon as she comes back. Sorry for that.
Yeah. Question from Kate here. Is it a good idea to host webinars for customers about other features of Google Apps as an incentive to stay with Google Apps? And should these be paid for by the customer? Now, if it's just, it depends on what value you're bringing. If it's an actual training, this is how you get your employees to be more productive, then I would actually charge for that. But if it's more of an, because post-deployment services, I see that's a great source of revenue that you should be thinking about. How can we consult them and help them?
I think, Kate, what you're referring to is the virtual CIO role that I pointed out in the reseller business model training. And I think that's a very valuable training and a very valuable role that you will play as more and more customers are engaging in cloud solutions, and they are dependent on you as a solution provider. You need to be playing that role where you are the virtual CIO and you go in there and explain them how they can use certain features and how they can leverage the Google Apps Suite for their fullest to its full extent. And I do feel that this kind of role that you're playing is really important. And doing this via webinar, I'm not sure if that's the best way, because you need to be still at that place of the company, and you need to be charged for that. You need to charge the customer. You need to charge the customer for that.
Yeah.
That's something that is really key, and it's one of the reseller business models we have been discussing, and it's really key that you do that and you help them really achieve the potential. If you can do that in a webinar, that's something which I'm not 100% convinced of right now. Need to try it though.
Okay, question from Jake here. You mentioned leveraging Adobe Connect. Could you elaborate on this? Does Google have a hosted version we can leverage? The answer there is no. You need to have your own, but there are many other tools. Just start searching for it. WebEx and Adobe Connect are just two of them. There are many, many of them.
Who should we address the webinars to? There are lots of questions. How soon, so question from Kate, how soon after a person is turned down as a lead, either by them or by us, should they be included in prospects to contact again? So the
nurturing process, right?
Well, if I think Kate is referring to a lead that we have disqualified, someone that we say is it's something that they don't want to migrate now in the next 12 months, so they will be nurtured.
Yeah.
And how long does it take? When should they be included in prospects to be contacted again? That's the question. So that depends really on the decision time frame. I think that, Kate, if the prospect is telling you, listen, I've just made an upgrade to Microsoft Exchange 2010, I'm not going to be looking into making another investment in the next 2 years, then for you the action point should be to take them off from the active nurturing list to the more passive nurturing list, and in 18-month time you reach out to them again. But within those 18 months, you still need to send them maybe some updates on the newsletters and whatever it was he was interested in Google Apps. That's how I would do it, and that's how we do it in Google. So we identify the main driver that was pushing in towards Google Apps and that he was interested in, and then afterwards we send him regular updates through the newsletters or invitations of webinars that he might be interested in. And then in 18 months, we pick up the phone and we call him, hey, listen, we had a call 1 year and a half ago. In the meantime, I've sent you some material. How does it feel? how happy are you with, how satisfied are you right now with your Microsoft Exchange 2010? I know that they will be expiring in 6 months. I wanted to start a conversation and see how I can help you.
Michael had a question if we can convert these into MP3s so we can listen to them. I don't think there's anything that's technically stopping us from doing this, but these sessions are very visual. We're often referring to things that are on the slides, so I don't know how much it would how much sense it would make to have it just in audio. I'm gonna listen through them and see if they're actually understandable if you don't have any visuals. So we'll see where we go on that.
Yeah. Jake, just on your question around the last object closing technique session, I know we ran out of time there. We will have a special session on demand though only, not a live webinar, for at least not in September. Maybe we'll be looking into doing that in October or November. But you will have that on demand available. We pre-recorded it already. Adriano, interesting question. Band looks like as an extensive part of the process. How do you fill in everything in a few minutes during a qualification process, for example, for a cold call? Just make a few open questions and get the most you can.
Adrian, could you just write in the chat box if you actually took part of the qualification and discovery training that we delivered?
Yes.
Okay. Well, go check that in the slides there. One of the last slides, we had the band qualification criteria, which is this is the output we need. So look at those questions we need answered. Like if we take authority for example, do we have access to an IT manager or a final decision maker or better? Do we know the decision-making process? So there you have the actual questions that you need to be able to answer before you can say it's a qualified lead.
But that's actually a good point. Maybe we should be making this more clearer next time, or make sure that we send out a message that they really know how they could be how they could really apply this checklist form.
Yeah.
I think this is a really important slide that you presented.
We can lift that out separately.
Maybe with all the other material that you shared on that particular session, that has kind of lost a bit of traction there.
Yeah.
We will send out maybe a separate email on that and make sure that we can send out share the band check form with them, and they know really how they can apply it in their practical life. What do you think? Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Are you going to post all questions and the responses of this webinar somewhere online? Question from Louis. Louis, yes, actually, as we are talking, I've been talking to it yesterday to a colleague of mine who will be helping me with creating a sales FAQ. So for each of the webinars, we will be providing the frequently asked questions and the answers. I don't know how much time it will take though, but hopefully within the next 2 weeks we will have already the document up on the portal. But in any case, you will have already, hopefully you will be able to attend all the webinars. But yeah, there will be in the next week some frequently asked question document that made available to you.
Looks like we've gone through most of them.
Yeah. So is that yeah, I hope that this training session was useful for you. It really was a common request among all of you, and we tried to do our best to share all this theory and practical advices with you. And Jonathan, thanks a lot for your assistance and help with all of this. I think that this is really useful, and I hope that you found it useful too, and you can take your practice to the next level. And if you have any questions more specific around it, please let us know so that we can in the future improve the training material. And that's I think that is it. Thanks very much. Thanks, Jono.
Thank you, Daniel.
And wish you a very nice day, and let's stay in touch. Look forward to working with you. Bye.
Bye.